Well, another adventure into the mountains. Let's see what today brings.
Well, one of my problems is I do get rather easily bored, and when I've pursued a particular style for a length of time, I do like to mix things up a little bit. Now, I would normally have gone out today with a 35mm film camera loaded with black and white film, but for some reason I thought I'll take a digital camera with me today, a little micro 4/3 camera with a single zoom lens. Now, the idea was that I would probably go for a film look. I didn't want that super sharp clinical digital look, so I decided to emulate 35mm film. Now, this is the first image I've taken here of some woodland, and as you'll see, it's quite soft contrast, quite gentle, quite low saturation. Unlike the actual surrounding woods themselves, I've accentuated more of the characteristics of a traditional film look, which I'll show you a little bit more of as the video goes on. So it was, with that in mind, that I started off on my little hike.
Well, I must say that whatever else happens today, it's very, very pretty out. And even if I get no photos, I don't care.
Now, one thing about swapping around with gear is it does keep me, my enthusiasm up. It keeps me looking for new things in new ways. I find I get a bit stale if I don't do that. So I do like to change things around every so often, but I do have certain looks that I favour. I mean, I'm a film photographer. This is got very much a film look. There's a lot of grain in there. It's a lot more blue than the digital camera rendered it. So as you see these clips coming up, you can see from the digital files, and some of them are taken with the same camera that shot the stills, like this one, that the preponderance is green in these scenes, whereas I've pushed more towards what I'd call a Fuji 400 colour look, colour negative, which is a grainy film. It's been discontinued now, unfortunately, but I think it renders the landscape a bit more sympathetically. It's certainly got more character than the raw digital capture, which is what I like about my landscape shots. I don't like to show them in a sharp clinical manner, and I was hoping with some of these bigger shots which are coming up now to achieve more of that classic film grain look as well. Now, this is where it started to get interesting, because this is the first one I really like. It is a grainy shot. There is a lot of atmosphere in there. There's also a lot more magenta, as I'll show you in a second. It was something which drew me to the scene in the first place, was this contrast between the lush vegetation and those skies. Now, I don't like the way they're shown here on the action camera and the Olympus EM5 Mk3 camera. This one in particular I love. And I love the character of this image. Now, this has been worked on with a preset I've made up. Now, here's the original raw file, unprocessed. Obviously, there's no sky in there, but it's very green, and to my mind, it's a little bit bland, to be honest. So these are some of the settings, and I'm not going to go into them here, that I applied in Lightroom. Just general messing about until it looked right, and I changed some of the colours as well, the hues, the saturations on 4 or 5 of the different colours. Now, if you look at these side by side, this is the same image, processed and unprocessed. And yeah, everyone has their own views, but I much prefer the image on the right hand side. It, to me, is just far more natural.
Well, I'm making the most of the fine weather this morning because the forecast is for heavy rain, so I think I'll get the best images before it closes in.
Now, when you start to look closely at these images, they start to fall apart, and that's the whole point of a 35mm colour film. I mean, the grain structure here, it is a grain structure, and it looks very rough and coarse. I've taken a lot of the detail out and added a lot of grain, but that's the way I like my images to look. I decided to press on up to the top of a small mountain called Canicht. I go up there quite frequently because it's a couple of thousand feet, and you do tend to avoid the worst of the weather that you get at, say, 3,000 feet. The views are also spectacular, although I did rather a short walk this day. Those were the scenes I wanted to capture, and the skies, as always up here, they play ball. I've got a lot of cloud, I've got a lot of interest, and all year round there are marvellous colours up here to be had. I mean, this is summer, so there's a little bit of heather showing through, which again I think leans into the strengths of the colour negative film, the Fuji 400 look, the 400H. A little bit of rain on top and very, very blowy, but as I descended, I got this wonderful heather here, which I think again is rendered very nicely with this particular profile I've put together. And it is biased massively towards magenta, but that's the way I prefer things. I prefer magenta to green, if you like. I prefer blue, you know, in terms of the colder tints as well, to bring that down. So that's what the profile's built around. But I suppose it's all a question of preference.
Okay, I'm going to follow my path all the way back through the woods. There were some interesting trees and mosses and structures, so
And it's again saying that you don't need to have a film camera to get a particular look. I use film cameras because I enjoy using them, and I like the simplicity and I like the tactile nature of film. But you don't need to have one to get the film look. You can quite easily, I mean, this profile took me about 10 minutes to put together, quite easily create a film look by just using any digital camera and moving the sliders around in your preferred editor. I mean, people will sell you film packs and all sorts, but I think my advice would be to make one yourself. Just come up with settings that you like and play about with them, try them out, and just apply them to the raw files and adjust them from there. Everyone has their own particular style. Again, this is one I particularly like. I mean, that to me is very filmic. That's how I want my film shots to look. And the problem with buying presets as well is they will not work the same for every digital camera. Everyone's digital camera is different. And again, here with this shot, the preponderance of magenta, I think I've used preponderance too many times in this video. The amount of magenta is my preference. I mean, I shot this here and I like tractors. You know, it's just it's not something I would normally shoot, but why not? You know, it's a landscape to me. You know, it's part of the landscape. It's just something I like to shoot.
so that's me done. Not the walk I was expecting, but still a fantastic outing. Really enjoyed it. Plenty of images, and I hope you enjoyed it too. So thanks as ever for watching, and I'll see you again soon.